you guys, it's MJ from Alta Love. How are you? I actually got my book out today because intuition is telling me to promote it, to share it with you guys, basically to encourage you to go buy my book. And I just want to make sure I'm keeping an eye on the time this morning. So this is actually kind of based on the share from yesterday afternoon. Thanks a lot for your guys' feedback about appreciating like the live share at a different time of day. So like I think weirdly this is like another sort of egoic outworking. Maybe it might resonate with some empaths, but like I have this side of my like I guess depressive mind tendency to sort of be like, oh no, like I don't want to bother people. Like, oh no, like don't, like, it's fine to share once a day, but like more than once a day it's a bit much. And so I have that weird, like, basically it's not right or wrong or good or bad, it's just like noodling with intuition and like what is the genuine, heartfelt, intuitive, inspired guidance that is fantastic action versus what is pattern, what is just ego, what is, you know, what's just MJ struggling to get ahead or pushing forward, you know, like versus I want to share. And like it's always kind of this funny old, yeah, like heartfelt space. So yeah, it was so nice to one, have those of you who showed up live show up, and then reading through some of the comments, and again, more big storms, more emotion was coming through, so it really lifted me. And like I'm having this very bizarro land of like, wow, my internet friends have become my real community. And I know you guys get that. I'm still integrating that as like a reality. And so based on yesterday's share, I was just being really honest about like where I've been at emotionally and how there's potentially a lot of depression and anger and explosive stuff, and recognize, I know it's tricky in the present moment because we tend to be really reactive, but there's healing happening. There's like an outworking. There's us moving through energy. And this is like, again, such a huge part for me of like getting in touch with our feelings, being more in tune, and also why our non-reactivity is so and or just our presence. Because I can say I still have major reactions, and I'm not ashamed of that, and I'm not here trying to say like once you're perfectly triggerless then you'll be the angel of light. Like I'm at a point where I'm not like I wouldn't even really feel comfortable like propagating that as like a path that we're meant to, you know. Well, of course, you guys know that. I'm like, I try to relate pure, just direct experience, and or I'm simply bridging my mind into abstract theoretical thought, you know? It's not, nothing is set in stone, and I actually consciously practice the stuff that I wrote in my own book, Surrender Knowing being one of them. And the main function of this book is basically teaching people that their emotions are the ultimate clarifier and emancipator. So like your ability to pay attention and to look over your life, to self-reflect, to self-study, to totally own the emotional frequencies that come up in a repetitive way from within the self. Once we sort of unravel, and this can take years, hence why there's no 21-day program over here, because I'm like, I don't think it's ever gonna be that black and white and cut and dry for people. I think that's a marketing tactic, and I think it's actually quite detrimental to people's journey in such a way. because we end up just going round and round and still seeking our idols. I talk about this as well, seeking our idols from one industry to another, to another, to another, and actually the fundamental things don't change. And yet some of this law of attraction, spiritual teaching, at least it's better than maybe where we've been before, you know? So hence why also we're able to share and we're all still alive whilst sharing some pretty awesome information. So yeah, my main thing about this book is another thing that some people don't talk about is in the earliest bit of the book, I'm talking before step 1, like I have to read from it, joy, gratitude, and love. So before that, we have the foundational pillars. So the foundational pillars are really the kind of anchor of the work, the method, the inner work of transformation. And I call it the ground control vibrational cleaning crew. Those of us that are here to clarify the human energy vessel, to become more heightened, intuitive, psychic, telepathic, potential teleportations, you know, superhero. Yeah, so the foundational pillars are basically tracking your emotional reactions, like totally taking a review, and that might mean doing some forgiveness work. That might mean doing some like light bubble meditations or whatever. But here's the one, and oh, actually, this is relevant. Can you see? Can you see? Can you see? So this step is unplug, and it's relevant because it's the final online course that Alta Love has been guided to produce as the Be the Change 4 pillars. And I've been unplugged for over 10 years now, and I almost take for granted how it's changed my life and how radical of a human I've become because I don't engage with that. So I often have people, oh, you're courageous, or you're brave, or you're so authentic. And it's like, well, it helps when we're not being programmed to behave a certain way. And I'm very, very aware of it because I randomly was guided to start, I watched Friends during my like depressive winter mode, and I like binged on it, and I was acutely aware all these years later, and you all know how much Friends has bombarded out, right? Especially like the 80s babies. And like, I'm super duper aware of like, I actually have groups of friends who have basically modeled their lives on Friends. You know, like same amount of boys and girls, and they're all coupled up, and like they've all kind of hit these sort of graduation points of life. And again, I'm somebody who kind of had these fucking awakenings, and over the years like was looking at those people going, like, why isn't my life looking like that? And I still do that. I just own all my emotions and I work through them, and I'm not scared of them. And increasingly I'm better able to anchor in and like explain stuff. And if somebody can really kind of step into their power, it can usually soften any kind of reactivity and bring us into the present moment. It's all about presence, presence. And then like the meditation, mindfulness, more so I would say the meditation, yoga, mindfulness discipline as a whole is what anchors us. And just breathe. Be present and breathe and watch the emotion. That was part of you guys saying like, I don't know how to handle it or manage it. There's one, trust yourself, love yourself, have loads of compassion for yourself, practice forgiveness wherever we need to, and just breathe through it. That's all it is. It's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to really do it. We all just want to point fingers. And yet, if we are somebody, and I've got to express this to you guys because this might apply to some of you, and this is a tricky one, especially when we're becoming more aware of codependent patterns in relationships and breaking free from manipulative emotional abuse. It's that at some point in your journey, you will have harmonized and or transformed the core wound of separation. Once that happens, and you'll simply just know it. I knew that was what was happening to me last year, even though the circumstantial reality would have me point fingers and da-da-da. That's not what I did. I dropped in and I healed some of the deepest core wounds that I possessed within the self. So healing the core wound of self-betrayal and self-denial, which is like the black hole sun, healing my power as a unified being of light and dark. So it's harmonizing that original sin as conflict within the energetic vortex. Once we do that as beings, the big leap that we make is that we're very rarely ever being triggered, we're projecting. So that means, or we're acting out someone's projection. So that's a very powerful piece to recognize when you're on this journey and have been on for a while and you're a little bit like not aware, like step back. There's a very subtle difference when we're being triggered and then having an emotional upheaval from within the self, and versus we're having a dynamic and it's not quite clear. And I experience as just the sudden like, bah! And increasingly what I'm aware of is that, especially because collectively there's such this imprint of shame around our anger, or like, oh my God, you're so angry, or da 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 da, like there's, yeah, shame around it. I'm suddenly going like, this isn't mine. Like you're and then lo and behold, it would come out that that person has repressed anger, or that that person wasn't ever able to be themselves without having a family member react, you know? And so once we can understand that our reactivity is usually, well, always coming from wounding, and then that wounding can be rooted to this core wound, and ultimately every single trigger can be traced back, you know. And that's, to me, the power of a manual or a manuscript like this, is that you don't need to go around in circles. You don't need to keep going back to healers every time. You don't even necessarily need pharmaceuticals. Like, your truth is already the healed state. And your entire life is your teacher. Every single person, every encounter, every symbol and sign and sound, everything around you is your healer, is your teacher, is your God. And that includes you. So to separate ourselves thinking that we're lesser, higher, or whatever is more separation, right? So you can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong, you guys. And we need to keep leaping into this space of like, not being guilty for having feelings, not being guilty for getting angry. My God, could we just let ourselves have a bit of a rage? Life is tough. And not be demonized, and not demonize ourselves for it. So emotions are the ticket. They're like super duper important in all this awakening thing, except it has nothing to do with suppressing and denying our emotions. We have to get used to letting them come up. And again, sometimes it's just like waves. That's why we talk about waves in this community. It's just waves. And especially when you get into the flow, sometimes I'll share with you guys, like, I get to that point where I can feel them coming, and then I'm like, I want to anchor in. I'm ready for the release to happen, because it like builds up inside and maybe starts to stagnate if I'm not present enough, you know, and or if I'm doing my numbing tactics way too much, which also I think these energies might be. So 1, don't be too hard on yourself, but 2, go easy on the numbing agents. And I say that for myself. You guys know this. So, you know, breathe. We're all right. We're still alive. Emotions are huge, but buckle in. It's going to be a wild ride. As much as I say that, I'm not saying to go, oh my God, not more depressing energy. No, we will start to feel lifted, but what we're doing is actually getting used to this way of being. This, being present with our emotions and allowing ourselves to feel we're coming alive. So we're actually moving into this aliveness. We're not just going, ha, I feel alive. Oh, let's go back to here now. No. We're getting used to being more active beings, being more alive beings, which to me is just meaning feeling. What is life? You know, all of that. So thanks, you guys. I gotta shoot off. I'm going to teach a class this morning. I love you loads. I appreciate you like beyond belief so much, like so freaking much. Thank you guys for your donations, your support. Thank you I love all of you for making bookings and stuff like that with me. I'm kind of pushing the retreat France as well, or the France retreat, which is the paragliding retreat. And I'm doing a price drop. So message me if you're interested and you think you might be able to rustle up some cash for it. Message me and I'll let you know if we